You're never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream.
Nice, eh?
C.S. Lewis. Yes, very nice indeed. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Hello and welcome back to the Rocknrollsailor journal. It's been a while. Spring was a hard hibernation. So it's springtime now. We're back on the roll, and tonight we're in Leiden. It's a small but historically very important town in Holland. And we'll be taking a tour through the evening streets.
Nee, moet je even hier even kijken.
So it's an old buildings, but I can tell you the pizzas are darn fresh and tasty. Like, so we're in Leiden tonight. One thing I like about everything that's changing in the world, change here, change there, change everywhere, is that 20 years ago there wouldn't have been one marketing campaign with 20 different types of people spread equally over the board. And now you do. And that's a good thing. So Leiden is like one of these old medieval small cities that just have history coming straight out of the cobblestone streets, you know. You know, all these typical house fronts. Lots of alleyways. This one's called the Thief's Alley. You know, because these medieval streets, they used to have be very narrow. And alleyways like this would be real easy for thieves to get around the corner and get lost in the crowd, you know. Because now we have the gift of street lights, but 150 years ago this would all have been pitch black. Absolute gangster's paradise in those days. Pitch black as the sky is right now. No clouds, sunny spring day, just beautiful. I just love the colors in the streets at night. Well, whether it's in the streets or in the forest or even at sea, it's like, even at sea you got colors in the night, you know, just yeah, it's great. And now we're walking to Broad Street, basically. And the funny thing is, it's all new shops, but it's all ancient buildings. I mean, a lot of this stuff has been up for like 400 or 500 years. And it's sort of like, you feel the memory in the houses of all the places that used to be in there, you know. like what's now a clothes shop. Could very well have been a tavern before, and before that a brothel, and before that a restaurant, and before that a cooper's shop or what have you, you know. But all that history, all that human history is still in these streets, is still in the bricks, you know. And that gives you a sensation of the specifics of a city as you're walking through it. You know, you don't get that on a tour bus or a taxi ride. Not that much, you know. And that's why I like walking through cities, especially at night. Just because it's quiet and you can really film what's there. I mean, just look at that, you know? I mean, it's just a lamppost, right? And it's cast iron. And they went to the trouble of putting a plant motif in there. Something you might walk by every day, but it does change your vibe, you know? Then we come across a smart bookshop here, because I haven't done much specific research on the university, but I do know that during the Catholic reign, this was one of the few non-Catholic universities, and so a lot of things could be printed here, could be thought here, could be said here, could be done here that weren't possible, like, you know, 100 miles further south. Which makes this place like an icon of free thought in some ways. The canals, you know, Holland is just full of canals, well, because, you know, it's below sea level. They've literally drained and dredged up like most of this country and just like shaped it completely, and in a way you feel that it's given them a gene pool of knowing how to canalize flow, and you know, whether it's flow of energy or flow of water, you know, they're literally masters at keeping their head above water and keeping everything afloat, you know. Beautiful spire. And the thing is, you know, if you just take off the religious symbol at the top, you wouldn't even know what kind of temple or fortress it is, you know. And that was the half something beat. It sure ain't 1 o'clock at night yet. So much detail in the architecture. You know, that's all thought up, designed, marked off, chiseled out, transported, put in place, just like, wow. And yet it's a totally modern town, you know? It's like a confluence of time. Nice bronze sculpture of a guy with what by all means looks like a fish box. So my educated guess would be that this is probably a marketplace and in the fish market corner. It's got a nice white quayside to it. So probably this used to be a loading dock for boats. Lanterns, trees, lanterns, trees. Yeah, so the confluence of time, in the sense that basically the present is a confluence of the past and the future. And as such, you know, there's a ever-changing and everlasting dynamic of the moment, the now and here, you know, the nowhere. And you have this kind of alleyways. That would be like, you know, from the time that all these buildings were built in wood, would have been like small fire passages. But also often there would be like a shop downstairs and the owner's house on the top with the servants sleeping underneath the roof. And in the back you'd have the workshop. So the workers and all the material could go through the small alleys into the back of the buildings. But circling back on that, you know, gangster paradise in those days, of course you'd have like piles of people sleeping in the streets. You know, a lot more than nowadays. And no street lights, everything being dark. And no fingerprinting. And no forensic science. So you understand that really made a difference in terms of overpopulation. Let's put it that way. And then you had your regular hanging parties, where people would come out and festively watch people getting quartered, hung, drawn, and what have you not of gruesomeness, you know. And I guess in a way it sort of alleviated their daily pain to watch somebody go through with quick time, you know, for the sins they'd committed or the stuff they'd stolen or whatever. Crazy days, you know. You know, in a lot of ways, it's like there's more people on the planet than ever. And in a lot of places, it's never been safer than ever before, you know. I don't think in comparison to numbers, there's ever been that many people being housed and fed and being relatively to extremely well off, you know. I just love that texture of the roofs here. We're out walking again through Leiden. It's about 10:30 in the morning. After the sunny day yesterday, it's a typically Northern European grey day. Nifty stoves, that. When you travel a lot and you go, you know, through different cities, you start checking on things and taking things into account. Like, you know, I've just been walking through the shopping street and you just automatically start noticing like percentage of shops that are twice the size of the others, percentage of big international chains versus, you know, local entrepreneurs, percentage of shops that are empty, and of those percentage that are derelict. You know, and that sort of gives you a calculation of the state of the social fabric and the economy of a community there, you know. And Another thing very important to gauge is like posture of people. You know, some places you walk through town and everybody's just slumped over. You know, there's something there that just, you know, don't sit right. Other places you come through, you notice that there's a high percentage of people smiling. You know, being silly, having fun with each other, or playing with their kids in the streets or whatever. You know, they're all like gauges. You know. Working on the bridge there. You know, you hear a lot of people going like, oh, you got to find your dream and you got to be able to do good for people and this and that, you know. But then when they see people that are basically like, you know, when they were a kid playing with wood blocks, they'd be building bridges and stuff, and then by the time they're in school, they prefer to study something with manual labor. You know, which uses both hands and heads. It's not one or the other, or you lose your hands damn quickly, I can tell you. And then they end up building bridges or repairing bridges. And you know what? You know, I mean, they could be darn happy doing that, knowing that by doing that, you know, sometime next month there'll be a new bridge for people to walk over. You know. Simple as that. You know, it's a service job, but there's absolutely no ground for looking down on that. On the other hand, on the contrary, you know. And there's like the ubiquitous Dutch party / restaurant / often hotel boats. They actually have these formulas here where you can like bike and barge. So you basically book a trip on a barge that stocks a number of bicycles, and in some parts they just, you know, they drop you off quayside with a guide and a bunch of bikes, and you go cycling through the nice and flat and perfect cycling lane, the Dutch landscape, and then the boat picks you up at your destination. You know, it's like a fun way of seeing the country. You know, there's like, when you walk through Leiden, you get the feeling of all ghosts of ancient scholars that for hundreds of years have walked these streets, searching for knowledge, searching their minds, searching books, searching each other's brains, you know. And it's like, you know, you just feel them walking through the streets. So a few nights ago I wrote a poem about it. It goes like this. It's called Cobblestones. The many ghosts that walk these streets, you hear the murmur of their minds, the cries of battle, shrieks of laughter, the eurekas burning like lanterns in the midnight skies. These ghosts walk mysteriously through you. See them shimmering, outliving their days in ethereal pantomime, only graciously making way as a toddler dances by. I've just come across this funny bookstore. Well, funny book. I mean, it's a funny bookstore. It's not a funny bookstore. He's got a lot of heavy subjects sitting in the window. Kind of like, warning, warning. Entering this zone will require brain activity or something, you know. A lot of German stuff. I'm just walking through, I could like drag 10-15 titles home with me, but I'm not gonna.
for one thing, because it's closed. Look at that. Magazine for the art of magic. That artwork is just spiffing, man. A lot of philosophy, like I said, a lot of German stuff. A history of torture next to Picasso's women. Think of it what you may. A small book of grave humor. Okay, that's a promising title. No Time to Die, still it makes me laugh. Die Kultur der Weimarer Republik. Cyanide. Hey, you know. I've noticed from the self-deprecating jokes on the door that the guy has a dark sense of humor, but he's apparently got a pretty dark sense of subject too. Like, anyway.
E. Cummings. The hours rise up, putting off stars and dawn. Into the streets of the sky, light walks, scattering poems. On earth, the candle is extinguished, the city wakes, with a song upon her mouth, having death in her eyes, and it is dawn. The world goes forth to murder dreams. I see in the street where strong men are digging bread, and I see the brutal faces of people, contented, hideous, hopeless, cruel, happy, and it is day. In the mirror I see a frail man dreaming dreams in the mirror, and it is dusk on earth. A candle is lighted and it is dark. The people are in their houses, the frail man is in his bed. The city sleeps with death upon her mouth, having a song in her eyes. The hours descend, putting on stars. In the street of the sky, night walks, scattering poems. E. Cummings.
Another way to gauge the health of a city or a village is the amount of trees and calm pieces of nature, you know? Just a little spot like this. Another piece of history. And these are like the billboards and the neon signs of a time when people in their minds and in their business were literally carved in stone, you know. This building was put up and just, it's not a wooden panel or a canvas stretched over the front. No, it's actually cut into the front of the place, you know. Bookshop and print shop. You know, built to last, expecting to stay, you know. And then the funny thing is, time takes over. Maybe 150 years later, what's down there is crafting stunning and more memorable experiences for the web. In other words, it's a digital bookstore and print shop. You know, it's like the building decided that this is what I am, this is what I'm going to be, you know. So will they be successful? Probably, yeah. Because what they're doing is in the soul of the building that they're in.
Dejo mis viejos libros recogidos en rincones del mundo, venerados en su tipografía majestuosa a los nuevos poetas de América.
a los que un día hilarán en el ronco telar interrumpido las significaciones de mañana. Ellos habrán nacido cuando el agreste puño de leñadores muertos y mineros haya dado una vida innumerable para limpiar la catedral torcida, el grano desquiciado, el filamento que enredó nuestras ávidas llanuras. Toquen en los infiernos este pasado que aplastó los diamantes y defiendan los mundos cereales de su canto, lo que nació en el árbol del martirio. Sobre los huesos de caciques lejos de nuestra herencia traicionada, en pleno aire de pueblos que caminan solos. Ellos van a poblar el estatuto de un largo sufrimiento victorioso. Que amen como yo amé mi Manrique, mi Góngora, mi Garcilaso, mi Quevedo. Fueron titánicos guardianes, armaduras de platino en nevada transparencia, que me enseñaron el rigor y busquen en mí lotreamont viejos lamentos entre pestilenciales agonías, que en Mayakovsky vean cómo ascendió la estrella y cómo de sus rayos nacieron las espigas. Pablo Neruda.
It sounds great. I don't know what all of it says, but it sounds great. Some of it here and there, I get the drift of it, and the drift smells like really nice. But I'm a South American gentleman in Amsterdam. Maybe you can translate it for me when I get there. This was Rocknrollsailor in Leiden. See us. One thing I've noticed walking through Leiden here is like in 4 days' time I have seen one police officer on a bike and he was all friendly. I mean, like agile and fit, but like all friendly, you know. And then you're walking through the streets and there's poems on the walls, and then here you actually just have part of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and it's the first article. It basically just says it all, all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights. They are endowed with reason and conscience and should act towards one another in a spirit of, here it says brotherhood, let's do gender adaptation, include everybody. So make that another, act towards one another in a spirit of humanhood. Sounds a little funny, might be getting a little used to, but who knows, maybe in 50 years time everybody's just talking about humanhood, and when you say brotherhood you're going like, oh, are you being seclusive, mate? One thing I love about canals is all those many different ways of making drawbridges, and this is like the old cantilever system. I look at this and I'm just like, okay, so this has been here for maybe 120, 130 years. But how long ago did we come up with a cantilever idea? I see some caveman sitting there playing with his firewood in the middle of the winter, and yeah, you can take that any way you like. And just noticing that there's like a tipping point if you balance an average piece of rock, an average piece of wood on a rock, And where is that tipping point? Because it's different for every piece of wood. It's different for any weight, and it's different for every person, and it's different for every life. You got tipping points in boats, you got tipping points in bridges, you got tipping points in the balance of your life. Moments that just make you change. There's a lot of people like looking for change and
trying to change and this and that, but it's like, you know, it's a natural process, you know. Sometimes you don't think about doing something for years, like I did with filming, and then pop, you know, in this case technology just makes it available to completely do your own thing, and there I am just scrounging through it, you know. Tipping points.